I've had one experience where a cat stepped on the keyboard and from the beginning killed the entire episode. That was episode 8, 189 episodes ago. Now I'm hyper paranoid. I'm always checking the time. Is it still running? And then they did it again, but I caught it quickly last week. This time they did it with my mouse somehow. How do they do it with the mouse? How do they activate the mouse? I take the mouse and I put it like the cursor far away from the stop recording button. Anyway, cats, you gotta love them. Greetings, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today, our guest is Violet Lang from Boulder, Colorado. She is an engineer and MBA, a happily married mother of 2 who met her husband in a dream. We're going to talk about that. But only after surviving complex trauma and rewiring her attachment style by integrating head, heart, and body and using spiritual techniques to date differently. We're definitely going to talk about that. And now she teaches other women to do the same. You can find her at violetlang.com, link in the description, of course. For my part, would you kindly like, share, and subscribe? Tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. I do video game streams most days, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. I forgot again which book I was going to be promoting. It'll be there on the screen, and you can see what it is. I guarantee it's fantastic. All my books are. I've got 17 currently available works of historical dream literature. Of course, you can find all this and more at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com, including downloadable MP3s of this very podcast, so you can take the wizard with you wherever you wander, with or without Wi-Fi. I love alliteration. Last but not least, if you would also head on over to BenjaminTheDreamWizard.locals.com. I'm building a community there. It is free to join, attached to my Rumble account. And that's enough out of me. Violet, thank you for being here. Appreciate your time.
I'm so excited. I love dream work, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share.
That's very cool. Well, you come from a very different background, but isn't that interesting that, you know, you don't have to be a specialist in psychology or a crazy person on the internet who thinks he's a wizard to enjoy dreams. You know, you can come at it from an engineering or just a broadly spiritual perspective. There's a system to understanding dreams as well. As much as they defy logic, there is a logic in dreams. So I don't know if you wanted to start with how you came to maybe the understanding that you needed or wanted to do some things differently with your personal life, and how your past was affecting your present and kind of foreclosing your future in a way.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was one of those people where some things in life came really easily and some things came really hard. I think most of us probably identify with that, but work and school, those things usually came pretty easy because growing up, they were kind of my escape. And I felt like safer at school than I did at home. So I was like, I love school. But then what happened is I married someone who really wasn't the right fit for me in my early 20s. We had a sexless marriage. And in my late 20s, I was like, what is going on? Like this, I can't continue to live my life like this. We had been together we'd been married 5 years and together, I think 7 years. And I realized I needed to go on a different path to really follow my heart. So it started with ending that marriage, but then it bled over into my career because I went from the corporate world into nonprofit and then eventually into working for a yoga company, YogaWorks, which is no longer, but for a while they had a lot of studios. And while I was working at YogaWorks, my personal life continued to be kind of a shit show. I was dating, but I didn't know what I was doing. I had a hard time getting multiple dates or getting into a healthy relationship. I seemed to attract the same type of person over and over again, even if they had, you know, a different look, different background. Energetically, they were the same. And I knew I had a lot of trauma from childhood, but I don't think I understood the extent of it until I started doing some coaching and therapy and started, you know, as they say, unpacking all of that. And the more that I did my personal growth work, the more that a lot of my business coaching clients, because at that time I was also a business coach, started asking me for personal advice, and these worlds kind of melded to the point where I then went back to take a coaching training for love, dating, and relationships. And at that point, it was just a pivot, and all of a sudden, that's all I wanted to do was love, dating, and relationship coaching. So yeah, that's kind of my journey.
Kind of the broad strokes introduction. That's great. There's a lot of jumping off points there into a lot of different stuff. The Well, not the first thing that occurred to me, but just a tangential, possibly related question. You ever done the, even just an online version of the Myers Briggs to get like, I think
Yes.
I'm an INTJ. Do you know what you are?
Mhm. It's funny because I've taken it a few different times during my life and it's changed. But
Mm,
I think part of that is my conditioning at the time, right? So
sure.
I took it at one point and I was an ENTJ, and then I took it at another point and I was an ENS or an ESTJ. But that was after like 4 years of engineering,
Yeah.
even though I totally an N. I think I also have one of those personalities where I can easily adjust myself based on the condition or based on the group I'm around.
Sure.
But I believe I'm an ENFJ.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, there's two things about that. Is one is probably okay. In principle, we would think like personalities aren't supposed to change. You kind of have these broad tendencies that are stronger in one direction than another. So we would look at that and go, are you really getting, is the test useless? And there's a lot of people who think it is. I would tend to think, okay, if you're doing internet quizzes that are not the real test, you're going to sometimes get different answers because a lot of them they use different language. If you made sure to go back 4 years later to take the exact same test you took before, you might get a closer answer to what you had. But if you take a different test by someone else, you get, long story short on that. But then again, there is a strain of thought that is, as you change and grow and evolve, some of your tendencies do as well. And it isn't like you're going to go from an introvert to an extrovert, but you might get closer to extroversion, because whatever purpose introversion was serving for you became less necessary or less entertaining, and you simply chose, I'm just bored too often, I'm going to get out more. Well, now you look more like an introvert who needs to be around people, but it's what is the motivation? So it's hard to tell. Okay, long story short on that one. I was just curious because what brought me, so a lot of, I work back, okay, my brain just, and that and I try and bring it all back together. So got to do the weave. What brought me to that question was thinking, you said you felt most comfortable in work and school, which is for me just the opposite. I hate those environments. I need absolute freedom to just kind of do whatever. You can tell I'm a disorganized mess, but it works for me, or so I think. I'm talking too much here. But the idea is that those are both highly structured types of thing. Like school it begins and ends. There's periods of time divided, sliced up nice and neatly. We're doing this subject now. We take a break. We do another subject now. That is very much different than most people's personal lives, which are, unless you impose a structure upon it, there is no structure. It's completely wide open, and that can feel like lost at sea. It's like, I can go anywhere, I can do anything, but I don't see land in any direction. It's all waves, it's all sun and clouds, no matter where I go, so why go anywhere? It's very hard to orient yourself and pick a direction, which is, okay, that's analogy, but which is why sometimes you have to wait for the nighttime, and then the stars appear, and you can navigate, and that's sometimes what our dreams do for us as well. I'm very proud of myself for just thinking of that.
I love it. It's a great metaphor.
Yeah, I love that. Well, where did that come from? I don't know. We have no idea where ideas come from, or for that matter, dreams. We can understand them in retrospect. Sometimes we can't predict them necessarily. We can kind of program them. I'm balancing everything today. Here, let me make a declaration and say, well, the opposite is also true. We're gonna that maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I don't think I ended up sleep last night, but that's okay too. The other thing I was going to say, and then I'm going to throw it back to you because I've talked enough, but I heard, I was listening to the radio yesterday. I don't remember who it was. It was not radio, but like a podcast type of thing. And someone was saying, hey, if every guy you've ever dated was an asshole, maybe the problem's you. And that's, not to blame, well, maybe you're the asshole. It's like, no, maybe you're looking for that for some reason, or leaving yourself vulnerable to that kind of predation if it's a abusive relationship type of pattern. So I don't know if you had, what were the insights that you discovered along the way that made maybe the most impact on how you changed your approach or brought order to your own freewheeling personal life?
Yeah, I think the biggest insight was that we all have catnip, like this thing we're addicted to that might not be that good for us. And we have our dating catnip. So my dating catnip was like very aloof, somewhat avoidant, very creative, kind of brooding sort of people. And because then I had to like work hard to get their approval, and it fueled my own anxiety for my own anxious attachments pattern. And I got to like do the whole golden shadow thing of like, they're creative and who am I? But now that I'm an entrepreneur and I create lots of programs and I have a much more creative and intuitive life, like I don't have any attraction to that. And I started changing what I thought I needed in someone else and embodying that in my own life. And then that totally changed my patterns of attraction, along with the awareness of what my catnip was, so that if I felt myself pulled towards someone, I could say, oh, how funny. I bet they're my catnip. And so like at a party or at meetup, I would feel, oh, I feel attraction towards this sort of person. Let's just observe how the night goes. And then, of course, during like the group share, if there was a meetup event, they would say something like that just fit exactly what I thought. Oh, yeah, that's my pattern. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was what was true for me. And for a lot of my clients, I invite them to do the same. Like, what's your catnip, and how can you get a little more savvy about that as you go forward? And how can you embody some of the things that you're hoping your partner will bring to you?
Is there any particular exercises or approaches that you're aware of or that you teach that help people identify their catnip? Because people might grasp, like intuitively, I grasp that concept. Oh, of course. What makes you roll on the ground like an idiot, loving every minute of it? What are you really attracted to? And is that healthy for you? But how to properly identify that, wheat from the chaff type of style.
I have a process I walk people through. It'd probably be too detailed to go
Oh,
through
fair
here,
enough.
but
Yeah.
I have them, you know, kind of do an inventory of their experiences, whether it's just a crush or a relationship or a fling. And then I also have them consider like what are their unmet needs from their parents? You know, what were they always wishing that their parents would give them more of? Um, and what are their beef, or what are the things they're so frustrated by in their relationship with their parents? And it's usually then this hybrid of parental unmet needs or angst combined with relationship history.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's very. We get into the problem with some folks where it's a little bit pie in the sky. It's a little bit touchy feely in terms of it's a little too loose to grab onto something and say, well, let's get concrete examples and try and establish a more rational or connected chain of events that lead to one another and establish a pattern. So it's very, yeah, that's probably works with your coming from your engineering background, where you're like, there's got to be a system to this. I'm going to find it, and then if you put it to the test, you're like, okay, well, what are the results we get? If it's garbage in, garbage out, then if what you get out is useful, the system works. Which is kind of how I do the dream thing. It's like if I just got garbled nonsense that nobody got any benefit from or felt had any personal meaning to them, I would say I have no system. Now, the funny thing is I don't actually have a system. It's more of an intuitive thing, but, I do, and we'll get around to that in a minute or whatnot, whenever we want. But, I do the basics of, well, first you got to shut up and listen. Then you start going back through it together to pull out more relevant details. So there's a little bit of a system to it, but I drop everything at the drop of a hat and change approach. And I rely heavily on, hey, I just had an idea. Where's it? I have no idea where it comes from. But that's why I got it. That's why I tell people, and if you're listening out there, if you contact me for a dream, don't say, hey, here's the dream, and then just like don't tell me anything. I need to be present with it fully 100% in the moment to get good results from that there. I think I had a question I was trying to come around to again, but I lost it.
Okay. I mean,
Go
to
ahead.
your point, like I relationships are not a science, even though I have like
Yeah.
things that I enjoy looking at with my client or trying to find some commonality. It is intuition and it is art. But one of the things I love is kind of synthesizing things that are very esoteric and bringing them into form, or helping someone bring them into form. So I think that's part of this idea of like being a cosmic matchmaker, is helping
Mm-hmm.
people connect with their higher self and then what they're here to receive in partnership. And it might not look the same for everyone. I don't think we're all meant to be in like this cookie cutter thing, but yeah, I find it fascinating, to your point, like where do dreams and intuitions come from, and just this sense. And I don't know if you ever follow John Beebe, who does stuff around Myers-Briggs, but he talks about how, if we're judging part for the Myers-Briggs, that's actually our intuition or sensing that is our most like forward feature, and we're
Mm.
in our relationships. So yes, I have a strong J, but I think my end My N comes up even. My J comes on strong with myself, and my N comes on strong with others, including my clients.
Very cool. And there's
Yeah.
an interesting. And I hadn't heard of that guy, so now I got a little make a little mental note. Um, but it might. A thought just occurred to me too, and I'm not sure if this is true or if it could be proven to be true. If anyone's ever looked into it, that's people ask me why I know so many random things. Like I just get random. I have random questions, and then I go look it up, and now suddenly I know literally the price of tea in China. Why would I know that? I don't know. I just wondered. I heard that expression before. I wonder what it is today. And then you go and you look, and it's this many yuan. Or, oh, there's skin hanging out for one that was playing with the cats earlier. Ooh, that's good times. Okay, the point I was going to. So if you got the, what's it? It's judging versus perceiving, or God, I get them all confused, but. Basically, if you're a J, then the opposite would almost be in your shadow side, and so you've got the Jungian work to do there. And so dreams will often bring that stuff up. It's like what's missing from your life that if it were present, you would have better balance, and then you integrate those things as well too. So, I suppose in terms of relationships, and it's tough because when I say you, the royal you, we as people, okay, the higher self thing, this is where what got me onto that train of thought, is like some people think that's way off in the spooky woo and new agey, and there's a lot of derogatory ways people refer to it. They dismiss it as flim flammery or snake oil salesman a lot of times, but conceptually, if I have it right, we all have who we are now, and then there's a better version of ourselves that could exist. Well, I think of that as your higher self. It's your lower self is maybe where you're at right now, unimproved, raw material, lots of potential. But then if you're aiming towards something to make yourself better, you're aiming towards your higher self. Do I have the right concept of that, or is that close?
Yeah, I think everyone has a different definition. The way I think about it is, for me, my higher self is kind of like my soul. It might not always, I might not make like the best always decisions in this human vessel, but my higher self, I believe, is kind of like my bridge between human me and like super conscious. And anyway, so I think of it that way, or I think of it as, there's like the chakra system, and my higher self is like an upper chakra. It's kind of overseeing or enveloping the whole thing. And I think my higher self is consistent lifetime to lifetime, whereas because I do believe in reincarnation, but I, like me as Violet, is not consistent lifetime to lifetime. This is just a personality construct that I created with this body and these life experiences.
Yeah, I think I might have been talking about this literally with my last guest last week. And what was it? It was the idea of that we choose to come here in this body with these traits to have a particular kind of experience. And I'm not the first one to make this analogy, but it's kind of like playing video games. It's like last week I was what was I playing last week? Oh, last week I was a cyborg in mercenary, and hey, leave her alone. This is the elderly one. She does not want to play. and he's a teenager, basically. He's barely like 9-10 months. And next week I'm going to be, what am I playing next week? Shoot. I'm going to be a kind of another sci-fi thing, but I'm going to be a guy whose friend runs a company that accidentally discovers time manipulation, and now I have to fight it out with them. So it's like each new experience, and I want to feel the story of that. What is that like? What is that life like? So I think that's I would broadly, I don't. I'd say I'm an atheist because non-theist. I just don't have a religious tradition. I appreciate them all, but it does seem more likely that if we, as Yoda says, are not the luminous beings, we are not this crude matter. It's more than likely we'd go around more than once. I think just to get the full experience of it. I mean, why spend eternity and have one life? Come on. That's just
Totally.
seems like a waste. Anyway, so I don't know if you wanted to get into meeting your current husband.
Yes.
In a dream. And now the way from the description, it said you had that dream about 3 weeks ahead of time. And I wanted to preface this by saying I have a friend in real life. He lives right over that way, about half a mile. He way 5 years ago when I started to get into this, I was collecting stories from people, and he said, "Man, I've had prophetic dreams," and 1 week later, it happened exactly to the behavior, to the people and the environment, everything exactly. And I'm like, that's amazing. I don't know what to do with that. I've never had that experience, but I believe he's not lying to me, and I think he's not delusional. So that means the only thing left over is probably true. So but I'll stop there, and you can tell me your experience, and we'll figure it out together.
Yeah. So at the time I was seeing someone, but very casually, and I didn't feel like it was probably the best fit, even though it made sense on paper. Like I felt like my heart kept getting hurt because they were really sarcastic, and I just am a little sensitive, but I wasn't sure, so I was kind of like mulling it over in my head and in quotations, looking for signs from the universe. And yeah, I wasn't sure what to do. I was meditating on it, praying on it. And I mean, I've always had a pretty rich dream life, but I've never had the experience that I had that night, which is I'm, I don't even know. There was like no space time. I just kind of was just in this blank environment. And this guy walks up to me and he puts his hand on my heart in the dream. And he says, "Joe," which is the guy I was seeing at the time, "Joe's a 10 and you're a 100. What are you doing with this guy?" And I laughed. Like I laughed in the dream, and then I woke myself up because I was laughing. And I was just like, okay, universe, like duly noted. I did not think this was an actual person, but my heart felt warm. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's nice. I got some clarity. I went back to sleep. And then 3 weeks later, I was at a meetup event on lucid dreaming because I do love dreaming. And this guy walks up to me, and a woman I was standing next to, I was like, holy shit, that's a guy I had a dream about. And she was like, what? And then he came up and he introduced himself, and he looked almost exactly the same, except in real life, he had more hair than in the dream. In the dream, his hair was thinning more. And in the dream, he had glasses. But I didn't know his name or anything. But he walked up and he told me his name. We started chatting. And then I didn't say anything that I had a dream about him because I thought that he would think I was batshit crazy, even though it was a dreaming event. But he asked for my number, and then we got coffee like a week later. And then I told him, and I said, I had this dream, and it was really cool. He was like, "I was claiming you before I met you. I like it." He wasn't like, "You're a weirdo," or like, "Are you just trying to say that?" And so yeah, so we literally met in the dream world, and then met at a meetup event on lucid dreaming, and now we're married. And it wasn't like it was all, kumbaya and rainbows. Like just because we have this somewhat cosmic love story, we had not tons, but we had our fair share of challenges, and we had to figure things out. And it's not like we just fell in love right away. But it was a powerful reminder that our dreams can be prophetic and can be like a clue, or that rabbit, kind of going around the track.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's just these stories blow me away. I wish I had more to say about it other than just wow. But that's kind of where I'm at on it. It's like I can't explain it. I can't offer a scientific explanation. What I could do is say, from the rational, enlightened side of things, in terms of I mean, like literally rationalist enlightenment style, would be to say, it's possible you saw him at another event and it didn't register, and then that face popped up later. It's possible a lot of things that the dream experience of this particular person was vague enough that after the fact you get kind of a secondary elaboration where you're like, oh, that's him. But I don't think any of those feel right. I don't think any of those things capture the experience of it, which is, no, that's the person I saw, and there he is in real life. And what do you do with that? I would say you don't ignore it. Number one, you probably want to take advantage of it. And like, if he hadn't come up to you, were you probably gonna get brave?
I hadn't noticed him. That's the weird thing. Is like they had someone at the event taking photos for the promotion of this person who was speaking or something, or the meetup host. And so there's pictures of us literally like back to back at the bar, like like I hadn't seen him and until the very end, and then he walked up. And he hadn't actually seen my face, but the speaker said, lucid dreaming is a little bit like being on, drugs. Like, has anyone done ayahuasca? And Jason, my husband, and I were the only two that raised our hands. So partly he came up because of that little connection. He always says ayahuasca and asked. He's like, I liked your ass and you did ayahuasca. So like, that's why I approached you. But the other weird thing is that we found out in hindsight after the fact that not hindsight after the fact that I had the dream of him the same night that he was actually in an ayahuasca ceremony, and his whole intention that night was to be met by the feminine. He's like, I'm sick of chasing, sick of going after these women who like are divas and are not interested and are shallow. Like I want someone deep and I want to be met. Like meet me. And then that's the same night that I had the dream about him. So it's just
Wow.
wild.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it just I believe those phenomenon are real, and there's like a lot of ways. So I'm a big take a lot from Freud, take a lot from Jung, and very eclectic influence on both my understanding of psychology, but then also specifically dreams. And some people don't know the fullness of Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, and it was partly what was in the fashion of the day in the late 1800s was atavism, the idea that each race had a memory. So the race of fish has a memory, and that's how they know how to swim, and cats know how to pounce and play with their food, and but that humans as well, we have a more evolved type of thing. So we've inherited in some ways the memories of. We don't have memories of their specific lives, although past lives maybe we do. But that being said, there's other layers as well where the collective unconscious also refers to common human experience. Because of how we're physically composed in the world, we must drink water, therefore we can be thirsty and all the attendant things. We can be wet, our hair looks different, or our skin, our fingers wrinkle. But also, too little water, we dehydrate. Too much water, we drown. That kind of a thing. It's common human experience. Okay, and then there's another layer as well, which is we're probably all connected psychically, and that's something that I think it's lost in the shuffle sometimes. But I see things like that too, and there's just I wish we could predict these things a little bit better, and it's been studied, but I don't think enough. But the idea that you both had the right focus in a way, like you were looking for a better relationship and he was looking for a better relationship. So there's resonance on that level, or across that, in that dimension of space-time, so to speak. But then also he was doing ayahuasca to say open up his mind to be more receptive or transmittive as well, and his focus as well. And then to have that and it can still be at that point still random chance in a way that those two lines managed to intersect on the right plane at the right time. And how many other people got really close but just missed, just a little off target. But it's definitely, I've had experiences like that as well, where it's like meant to be, fated type of stuff, which I do, again, yin yang style. I do and I don't believe in fate and predestination. I think
Me too. I mean, despite having this like dream, I don't actually believe in predestiny and free will. I mean, sorry, I do believe in free will, fate.
Yeah.
Like, I think it is this randomness, but then when you have a chance, because I don't think we have just one soulmate. I think we have multiple, many, maybe hundreds of soulmates around the world. But when you find something that feels like it's resonant and you're both willing to commit and do the work, that's where it's exciting. Like you can step into something that already has a good energetic foundation. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because when we got married, my husband was like, I don't really know if this was a random coincidence or fate. Like I said out loud to everyone. I was like, okay.
Oh yeah. Well, a little bit of both sometimes. It's kind of like that leading the horse to water type of thing. It's like your destiny maybe leads you to the water, and you as the horse get to decide whether or not you're going to drink. And you could probably find, as you were saying, a number of different partners or watering holes and commit to each one in a different way and have a different kind of experience. And it could work out. You could be married for a lifetime with someone completely different, but also compatible in their own way across different dimensions. But you also had to be prepared for it by, breaking free of your own catnip, as you were saying, getting yourself into a place of, and that's why I have like 100 different books I want to write, or maybe they're just essays I need to get around to writing first, and then I'll see if I can develop it into a book. But different concepts I think are poorly understood, or people hear one definition and they miss like 17 other shades of meaning when it comes to that kind of stuff. And a lot of it is like, it isn't that you have unavoidable fate necessarily, but once you get into under certain conditions, if then takes over. Like if you are heading towards a cliff and you don't hit the brakes, then you will go over the cliff. If you hit the brakes and turn the wheel, you could avoid it. So what is your fate? Well, your fate is you are doomed to make a decision or no decision and just take your hands off the wheel, in which case you're probably going over the cliff unless something else intervenes at that point. But I don't suggest tempting fate. That's usually a bad idea. So we have all these things where the same with opportunities like this. It's like if you had met him 10 years earlier than that, you wouldn't have been ready for that relationship.
No.
And he would have probably not given you the time of day either, because neither one of you were ready. But right time, right place. Like, yeah, I had weird experience that left me shook. Like, it's 25 years ago. I think I might have told this story before, but anyway, I had an old Datsun back in the 90s, and it had some alternator issues, and so sometimes the battery would charge and sometimes it wouldn't, and I never knew. And so I pulled into this I was visiting a friend, pulled into this Quickie Mart to ask to use the phone, a little local kind of Quickie Mart out, quasi-rural. And I called to say, hey, I'm having car trouble. And I'm coming, but I'm going to be late. No, I didn't. I'm late, but I'm coming to work. I go out to try and start my car. It doesn't start. Oh, I shouldn't have stopped. I should have just driven to work and been late and not tried to call him. Oh God, what is wrong with my life? And so I went back into the store and I was thinking it might be an issue with the starter because I didn't know it was the alternator at the time. So I said, can I borrow a hammer and just kind of knock around in there, see if I can knock something loose? Maybe the solenoid of the starter is not kicking over or something. I don't know what's going to happen. And so I didn't even get to lifting the hood. I walked out the front door and this young couple was walking. I was young too, but they were younger than me, teenagers. And as they were walking up to the store, this car with some jerks in it pulled up and they jumped out and were like being aggressive towards them. And right at that moment, I'm standing there with a hammer in my hand and I just point at them with the hammer and I yell as loud as I can, hey, you get the fuck out of here. And they like, what's your problem, man? I'm like, I'm your problem. You get out of here. And they were going to jump these kids. I don't know what they were doing. And so they got in the car and left. And it turned out, actually, I found out later, they were drinking and got arrested for drunk driving down the road. So this whole, but okay, what put me there and made my car not start and gave me the idea that maybe I need a hammer. And then I walked back in and back out at the exact moment to be there to do that thing. Blows my mind to this day. I will remember that story forever. And I couldn't have made it happen if I'd wanted to. And you never know. Things like, I suffered months of car trouble before I figured out it was the alternator. And I figured it out soon after that event. It was almost like that problem needed to stay until it wasn't necessary anymore. I see you nodding there. This is my story. That's my story anyway. This is one of my
amazing story.
Warp and woof of the universe, bringing me to the right place at the right time to do something useful. Now, I didn't have to take the opportunity. I could have been like, oh, not my problem, and just quietly backed up into the store. But because of who I am, and in that moment, I was like, whoa, this is trouble, and I had to do something. So being prepared for an opportunity too, and to take advantage of it is a big deal as well. I don't know if I had a point there. I'll just throw it back to you.
That was a great story. I was nodding because I think it's great and admirable that you took advantage of that opportunity. And I do think the universe works in mysterious ways. And it's not just about, sometimes I get a little sick of this like law of attraction, like manifest whatever you want. It's like we are so much more infinitely complex as a humanity, and our dreams and other people's dreams, literally and figuratively, bouncing off of and weaving with one another. And I think it's synchronistic that you found out what the key root problem was for your car after that incident happened.
Oh yeah, just more evidence piles up that like this. Wow.
Yes. And to your point earlier, I do think we're psychic. I think some people are more tuned into that than others. And I don't think as like a culture, we have enough groundswell to support all that's possible with that. But it's exciting and mysterious.
No, it very much is. And just being open to it as well. Just the possibilities of like, I think some folks, they get a little irritable and they whoa, knocked her in the face. Oh, baby girl, I didn't know you were coming. Now she's gonna sneeze. I'm sorry. I think a lot of people close themselves off to that. They get irritated by it, and I love the mystery of it as well, which is partly why I love dreams. Even though I am also trying to get an answer for the dreams, but I'm prepared for the universe to be so much more complex than I will ever understand. So if I don't understand something, it's like, well, that's par for the course. There's too many. What is that Shakespearean line? Too much more under heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Such a great line. Well, why don't we do this? I think we've been chatting for like an hour about random stuff. You want to do your dream for today?
Yes.
Let's do this thing. I'll do a little timestamp here. Where are we at? 6.
It's pretty long because there's like 4 or 5 little snippets. It kind of shifted scenes. Can I share the whole thing, or do you want me to just share one of them?
That's a good question. Most people just launch in and they're like, "There's 4 parts. Here we go."
Okay, well, I'll just do it all.
Yeah, let's just do it all, and then if they maybe identify those transition points when they come up, so I can make sure
Okay,
that
I will.
keep them separated. So, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna shut up and listen, and our friend Violet here's gonna tell me about her dream. So I'm ready when you are.
Benjamin the Dream Wizard wants to help you pierce the veil of night and shine the light of understanding upon the mystery of dreams. Every episode of his Dreamscapes program features real dreamers gifted with rare insight into their nocturnal visions. New Dreamscapes episodes appear every week on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and other video hosting platforms, as well as free audiobooks exploring the psychological principles which inform our dream experience, and much, much more. To join the wizard as a guest, reach out across more than a dozen social media platforms and through the contact page at benjaminthedreamwizard.com, where you will also find the wizard's growing catalog of historical dream literature available on Amazon, documenting the wisdom and wonder of exploration into the world of dreams over the past 2,000 years. That's Benjamin the Dream Wizard on YouTube and at benjaminthedreamwizard.com.
All right. Part 1 of my dream, which was from 2 nights ago, by the way, was I'm with my husband, Jason, in a large house. We're in the basement, and there's many different rooms. We're in the living room area, and the basement somehow had the garage attached to it. And I heard my parents coming into the garage, and we didn't know why they were there. And then I asked Jason, "Where's the baby?" And he said it's in another room. So we went to the baby's room, but on the way I was trying to turn off the lights, and I couldn't find the light switch to turn it off. There was like 3 or 4 different light switches I tried to turn the light off, and none of them worked. So then the dream switched.
Okay. Part 1. Gotcha.
Yes. So in part 2, I'm in a let me just get the gist so I have it all written
take your
down.
time.
Okay, yes. Okay, part 2 of the dream, I'm in a really large warehouse where there are trains. And the trains are almost like open box cars, but not just open on the top. It's like the frame of a box car that's completely open. And then some of them have a red box car, but it's like the top of it is floating. Like there's an open frame in the bottom, and then a red part on top. And we see these trains, but I'm actually in a passenger little tram without any overhead, kind of like, I don't know, like a really long golf cart with multiple seats.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us on the passenger tram are making fun of this warehouse. We're like, "Oh, they have all these trains. It's such a big building. There's like so many resources tied up in this. This is ridiculous. Like what a waste of metal and resources and space and all of that." And my dad was sitting behind me with my mom, and he got out as we're all kind of mocking these trains, and he hit a train like a piñata, and then all this candy comes out, and they look like very extra large peanut butter cups. And I wasn't gonna get any. I was like, whatever. But then I reached down and got a dark chocolate one, and I noticed as I was doing that there was a purple lip gloss, and it looked like my actual lip gloss. So I grabbed it. But once it was in my lap, I realized it was actually pink lip gloss. And so I thought, oh, this is probably my Aunt Carolyn's, who was sitting ahead of me. And so maybe I'll give it to her when we stop. So that was part 2.
2 seconds here. I also had an Aunt Caroline. Caroline to her later. Okay, good. Next up.
And then in the third scene, I'm with my husband and we're standing outside of a car, and there's a bunch of people kind of all piling in all 4 doors. And before we could get in, though, we thought we were locked out. And then someone realized they had hidden a key in this canister behind the back left wheel. So then we're all piling in, and turns out 2 of the people coming in are a couple, a gay couple. And one of the guys said, "Marriage takes a lot of work." And everyone in the car nodded, but kind of happily, like, "Oh yeah, it's a lot of work, but like, it's also joyful." And that was it for part 3.
Okay, here. Okay, next.
Yeah, there's just 2 more parts. So then part 4, I'm in an art studio / workshop, and there's this really vibrant, kind of young guy, probably in his 30s, and he's a children's book author and illustrator. And he's showing me these miniature models, which are the basis of his illustrations. And they're all in primary colors like red, blue, and yellow. And one of them is like a kitchen table and chairs. And he had won a Caldecott medal recently, and I felt very like excited and in awe to be in his presence and in his studio.
Okay. I'm going to need to learn how to take shorthand.
Okay.
All right, next.
Okay, the last part, part 5, is Jason and I are with 2 friends of ours who's a couple, Jeff and Stephanie. And we're on this really cool adventure in this kind of cosmic looking museum. And I had a paper cup in my hand, a white paper cup that had like bubbly water or some sort of drink in it. There was a little bit left, but not a lot. And I was just enjoying it. And then we walked by this kind of bubbly potion, not really a cauldron. Again, it's kind of like a canister shape, and it was white, and it had light. It was like light green and white, and it smelled like candy apple and ice cream. And my husband looked at it first and he says, "I don't think there's any left." But I was like, "No, there definitely is. There's a lot." And so I said that without even looking in. And then I looked in, and there was tons of this potion. And so I filled up my cup, and it tasted delicious. And that was the end.
I had to stop writing and change the page there. So,
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah, let me get that from you one more time. As far as you're walking past a kind of bubbly cauldron. There's like a candy apple and ice cream.
Melon look. It's like light green, and it smells like candy apple and ice cream. It's light green, but it's also foamy, kind of like a root beer float. But this was like a candy apple float, like a green candy apple float. And my husband says, "I don't think there's any left." Kind of like, "Oh, I think it's all gone." But I said, "No, there's a lot left." And I looked in, and I was right. There was a lot left. And then I filled up my cup and took a drink, and it was delicious.
Okay. All right, and these were all kind of same night, back to back to back to back. Is that typical for you to have a lot of multiple dream nights, or?
Yeah, I would say when I do dream, which isn't every night, but when I do dream, I normally have at least 3, sometimes like this night, 5.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while I won't have a dream, but I'll wake up with like just one image or a feeling or color or something like that. But when I do dream, this is kind of common. Yeah.
Gotcha. And did you have any sense that it was all strung together as one dream, or very distinctly separate sections of dream that were separated by time or other dream material you don't remember?
No, it felt like they were all back to back because I remember waking up at 4 a.m. to feed the baby, and I was like, "Oh man, I haven't had any dreams yet. I hope I have some dreams to bring to this, this show." I have my dream journal I could go back to, but I kind of wanted something fresh.
Oh yeah, fresh
And
is always best.
I know it happened between 4 and 6
Okay.
a.m. and it felt like it was all just back to back.
Gotcha. So the reason I ask is that it very well could have been multiple separate dreams, but this is also typical of a single dream, or typical, very common to have people say, I went through a lot of different scenarios that all seem to flow one after the other, even if I didn't know what connection was to them. And sometimes we can figure that out together. It's like, what's the connection? So remember I was mentioning earlier that I had just one person where we spent 4.5 hours. They had a dream like this. They had a dream that was like in 5 different sections. Now they had a lot more material for each section, and maybe we'll get to that. But even these brief descriptions gives us, I mean, we got basically 2 full pages by the of just general descriptions. So enough of that. Let me actually put 1, 2. I should have been doing this before. This was
That's okay.
3, 4, 5. Because I'm going to try and go back and keep them in order as well. So you've got the very first dream here, or first section. And it's also very common to say have just a radical scene change in dreams. Sometimes they play out like movies, and like in a movie, they have the meeting in the boardroom, and then that transitions to, well, they're having 2 of the people who at the meeting are now in the car park, and they're getting into their vehicles and having a goodbye, and then one of them drives somewhere, and now we're in a driving scene, and it's like sometimes it's all one narrative, and sometimes it shifts pretty radically. But a lot of the characters stayed the same. It's very central to your husband, big part of these dreams. Your parents were there. No mention of your kids, so probably not involving them necessarily. So it isn't. What would I say about that? Sometimes the counterfactuals give us some interesting ideas. It's like, well, this probably wasn't. This was more of your relationship with other adults on that level of adult relationship, rather, because if you brought your kids to do it, it would probably mean something else. But we're probably looking at that, or at least that's a direction to look. So you start the opening scene in your mind for whatever reason. You and your husband are home in the living room, and there's a kind of basement / garage type of thing, and your parents are coming in. Now you did involve the kids in terms of like, where's the baby, but this part I think I missed some of the material. You went to the baby's room, and the baby was there or was not there?
No, the dream switched before we even got there. I was on my way to the baby's room, but trying to turn off the lights in the living room, and I couldn't find out how to turn them off.
Okay, very interesting. And your parents were coming in, and they asked, "Where's the baby?" Or you just had that thought inspired by.
I asked my husband. My husband and I were in the basement living room. I asked my husband. I was like, "I think that's my parents. Where's the baby?" He said, "Oh, he's in, this adjacent room." So I was going towards that room and turning off the light as I went. But the light switch I turned off didn't actually turn off the overhead lights. So then I tried like 2 or 3 other switches, and they would like turn on different lights or turn off something, but they were not connected to the overhead lights.
Okay. So we got going on there is, so your parental figures come in, and from your husband, or in his mouth, you put the question of orienting you towards, okay, now think of your child in a way, and you were going to go to see them almost in a way your parents were coming in to see you. So there's kind of a mimicry there. It's you're gonna turn this off, aren't you? Don't do that. Don't do that. I love you, Bubba. We're still recording. Yeah, his name is Bubba, like Bubba Gump Shrimp Company.
Yes.
I call him my Bubba boy. There you go. But you didn't actually go all the way. It could have been a very very simply, oh, I walk down the hall and there's the kid, and I've verified in my mind that they're safe, and that's its own type of meeting. But it was, I think I'm on to something. I don't know what it is, but the idea of the arrival of the parents is it's going to change the dynamic of what you're thinking about. You're in relaxation with my partner mode. Then you're like, okay, now generational dynamics in a way, I am their child, whereas my child would naturally perhaps occur to you. But you've got this failure to operate the mechanical devices properly. You can't figure out the switches. There's, and I don't know if you've been contemplating that later on, the idea of, am I as good a parent as my parents were? Or has there been any reason to question that, or any recent occurrence where you were like, I need to reach out for advice because I don't know what to do. Who do I call? I call my parents.
My dad sexually abused me when I was young, and I'm estranged from my parents. I haven't talked to my parents in 10 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So yeah,
that was not what I weird. That's not what I thought
okay.
that face meant. Yeah.
It's okay. It's kind of weird they're in my dream because I haven't had a dream about them in years. Like, I couldn't tell you the last time I had a dream about my parents. So it's a bit strange. I mean, the reason they're not in my life is for a few different reasons, but part of which is because I have my own family now, and they are not a healthy influence on my children. And so I don't want there to be kind of like, I have very strong boundaries.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's reasonable too.
I think I'm a much better parent than they were, but there was complete lack of boundaries growing up. So maybe is there a part of me that is, trying to encroach on my children's boundaries, but I'm actually not doing it because there's too much light. Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah. What was the purpose of turning the lights on or off? You were trying to turn them off in the living room because you were leaving that area? And trying to turn on a hall light to light your way?
I didn't want them to know I was there. I thought if I turned off the light,
to hide
they
from
would
them.
think that no one's home, and they would go upstairs because their stuff is upstairs. It wasn't clear that it was their house. I don't know whose house it was, but it was more like, oh, I think my parents are here.
It wasn't even your home.
I don't want them here. No, I don't know.
Okay, that's good to know too. Okay, not. That's interesting too. Okay, well, this is why I ask questions, and I'm happy to be wrong. I don't typically assume people had an abuse history with their parents. It's common enough that it doesn't surprise me, but I don't make that assumption. So it's good that you would clarify that too. So I think I'm still seeing something in that regard of comparison. So there was whether your experience with your parents was good or bad, you're going to use that as a reference point for your own experience. So if it was bad, you want to do better. If it was good, you want to be as good as. So you're still, you almost can't escape from that in some degree. Your parents are, what they say, the sins of the fathers visited on the child. Always, every mistake a parent made, the child who's helpless is going to suffer from it, whether the parent was malicious or just an idiot or doing the best they can and we're only human. The mistakes will flow regardless. So yeah, definitely. So there's something going on there of and you're not even in your own home. But it didn't. What does it say? I think you maybe didn't mention that until we started talking about it, and so of course I assumed it's your house. But that may be another layer as well, is where you're. So there's dreams love puns and analogies and different things like that. So, being in a house, but it's not your home in a sense is well, you've got, what is it that makes a house a home? There's elements, well, some people say love. There's a lot of different answers. It's the place you want to go back to, but you can never go home again because you're different when you come back, that kind of thing. So we got a lot of that going on there. So there's definitely, if we kind of sum that up a little bit, we got an idea of thinking, I guess, about the concept of parenthood and executing it well. And what you're finding is that you're unable to operate the lights properly to hide from the impact of what happened to you when you were younger. There's no, or at least at the present moment, you don't know how to separate that to the degree you'd might like to keep that out of your life. It's coming in. You can't turn the lights off. You can't figure out a way to hide from it, in a sense. So there's so the impact of parent-child. On just on parenting in general. We got a little bit of something there. If that feels like it kind of resonates a bit. I mean, if I ever say something, like I said, I'm happy to be wrong. If I ever offer a suggestion and you're like, I don't see that at all. I don't feel that in any way. I'm like, well, then I'm completely wrong. Let's try something else. I'd rather get that kind of feedback. What I describe it as, I am just a crazy person on the internet who thinks he's a wizard. I don't have any magic powers. I don't hear the voice of God. I don't communicate with spirits. I don't get psychic visions other than inspirations. What if it's this? Let me see if this fits. I describe it as you invite me into your head and I stand behind your shoulder with a flashlight going, what do you see over there? What if we look at it from this angle? That's as far as I can go. The rest of it is, it's none of it. The answers are not in my head. Okay, so then we got section 2. Now, what I try to do is construct a narrative across, like what's the through line that tells a story of the dream, if I can. Can't always do that. But so in the second section, then you're in a large warehouse with trains, but they're more like boxcar frames rather than framed in boxcars. So they're not quite useful. They're not quite fit for purpose yet. Like they're maybe under construction. And I wrote down, some, literally, this is what I wrote down. Some red boxcar, quote, floating red part, unquote. Does that kind of describe, did I even write that down correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Some of them were just boxcar frames. Some were a frame that only the top part was filled in, which I know is not physically possible, but it was like half a boxcar, but it was the upper half.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that is very interesting too. Like physically impossible boxcars there too. And so there were also, if it's a train warehouse, so to speak, like what do they call them? Like the terminal stations where they've got some of the rotating platforms that'll allow them to turn the cars around and whatnot. So there were multiple rail lines running through it, and you and some other passengers were on one of those lines in kind of a open air golf cart tram style.
Yeah, it was more like we were just it was like these trains didn't even have tracks. They were just there.
Okay.
They weren't necessarily running. They were just there. But we were in the tram and the tram was moving. And the tram was just like on the linoleum floor of the warehouse.
Okay. So almost like, I don't know what they used to call it, like a Disneyland, like people mover style thing. Or I've seen those before too.
Yes.
I've actually been in California. Oh, this was like 30 years ago, where they had open air train cars because they were doing summertime or springtime trips up a mountain with an old school train, and they wanted you to be able to see the trees and whatnot, and it was just completely and anyway, like that. Or they might have had a shade cover, but it was wide open, like a golf cart. Okay, let me read through this part again here. So it's you and other people taking a tour, and did it seem like crowded or just well attended, sort of, like as far as other passengers, not packed, but plenty of people taking advantage of it? Okay. And other people were making comments that were mocking of the warehouse, ridiculous waste of resources and space. And then once again, your mom and dad are there, and your dad performs an action, hits the train like a piñata, candy, peanut butter cups falls out. And first you weren't going to take one, but then you decided you would. And then what you actually found when you went looking in the pile was purple lip gloss that maybe belonged to an aunt. That was your dad's sister or mom's sister?
My mom's sister.
Mom's sister. Okay. So what I'm seeing there, what the shape of it looks like to me is, you've got tools in a toolbox in a way, but they're not fit for purpose. They're not on tracks. They're not even finished being constructed. So if we follow that from the last one, where you're thinking about the impact of your parent-child relationship on your current relationship and maybe parenting style, what did your parents leave you with as a result of the dysfunction? Well, they didn't give you the tools you need. They didn't put the tools in the toolbox. They didn't give you the example to follow where you could be relatively certain that, okay, if I just do what they did, at least I can't screw it up any worse than they did, and maybe I can do it better. But at least they gave you a good example to start with, and a resource. That's a big thing too, is like, not only do you need a good childhood, you need good parents your entire life, because eventually you have your own kids and you got to go, Mom, I don't know what to do. And you got to be able to go to somebody. And it's ideal if it's your own parents, because you can trust them because they raised you well, and you think they know what they're doing and they care enough to give you good advice, all that. But then when you don't have that, you're in a much more difficult situation. Now I need to find someone I can trust, who knows what they're talking about, and doesn't just care, but doesn't know what they're talking about, and also is willing to take the time, and all of the above, and then, see me through the process. I'm using a lot of words. I just ramble until I say something that resonates with people. And what you're doing is, you're in your mind, it seems to me, is taking a tour through this facility to observe what's there. Well, and then that's why I drew it back to the first one, where you're like, okay, I don't want my parents in my life, but I acknowledge that they're gone for a good reason. And that means I was left without tools. Well, what does that look like? Okay, it's like being in a train station where not only are they not on tracks, but you can't even put things in the boxcars because they're not finished being built. They haven't become useful tools. And in a way, it seems like maybe you're putting this into the third-party feedback. So it's not just you saying to your husband, or him saying to you, oh, look at those cars, they're a waste. You've got the peanut gallery in your head of maybe what other people in a similar situation to you would be saying. Well, this is ridiculous. These are not fit for purpose. It is, in the way you phrased it, was a waste of resources and space, but it's just, well, what does it mean for something to be a waste? It's like, it's a shame. It's unfortunate that this is not useful. Like it should be or could be. And I think in a way it does a little bit of a recursive loop, and it brings your parents back in, and suddenly they're present because it was kind of still about them. You're in that flow, and they've got you've got your dad hitting a train like a piñata, and it bursts into candy. So there's probably a part of you, and I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but this is not uncommon at all, probably part of you that still loves him, even if you hate him in equal measure or significantly more. So there's a violent act of bashing the piñata, which we think of as celebratory, but it's kind of weird that you're at a party trying to destroy something to make it give you candy. So there's probably a piece of you that says, okay, look, it wasn't all bad. There's gems, gold in the mud of the river, so to speak. And okay, so I could acknowledge that. And then, but you don't know if you even want to take that, if you even want to give him that much, the satisfaction of saying, the one part of it would be, I'm not taking anything from you, anything. But then sometimes, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we say, well, that one thing they did was good and true and useful, and I shouldn't throw that out with the bathwater, because I'm only hurting myself not to acknowledge that, even if I have to give them even a shred of credit. So you have to wrestle with yourself for a moment. And you say, I don't really want it. I guess I'll take it. It's actually a good thing. It's actually something I like, so I will take this. Why not? Why not allow myself this? But then what you found in the act of allowing yourself to have that thing that you like is you found a connection to another elder relative on your mom's side. And then, so this would be a good point to say, I mean, what do you think you got from her in connection to where this dream's going so far? What role model did she provide for you? Or, was she someone that tried to stick up for you when you were young, or?
No, it's really strange. Like, I mean, I've never had a dream about her. My mom is one of 8, and this is a younger sister. She has 3 younger sisters, but it's the next in line to her younger sister. And we did not have very much connection at all. I am trying to think of a nice way to say this. Like, sometimes people in the family, particularly my parents, would kind of um, complain about her behind her back because she had 4 kids, and the grandma, my mom's mom, was basically raising her kids for a long time. And my mom felt bitter about that because she didn't have a good connection with her mom, and she thought that her sister was using her mom. And like, there's just, my mom's family has a ton of drama. So, however, this aunt remarried or married someone kind of later in life who's a pastor, and now has, from the outside looking in, like a very like a very functional, marriage, and from what I can tell, her kids are thriving. So it feels to me like she might represent kind of turning her life around, or going from like the black sheep to something else in the family system. I don't know.
I think so too. That's actually, as you were describing that, that's exactly what I was thinking. The idea of, I mean, she means something. She represents something. Why this icon of hers in the pile? And maybe there's a connection. How do I phrase it? The idea that if you take the good, you may end up capable of following her example. That by opening yourself to, okay, some was bad, we're going to project that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to like that. We don't have to. Boundaries, man. And then, okay, but if I take the candy, because that's okay. Well, what do I find in there? I take the good stuff, and maybe that's what leads me to maybe being able to follow her example. Something like that. And then it's so a lot of this is going to be like comparisons to your situation and others, and hers specifically on that one. So, and you had this dream just a few days ago, so this is all, in a way, water under the bridge. Maybe it's not the right analogy, but the idea of this is all reflecting on the past, and where are you now, and what other people have in your life had maybe accomplished something similar by point of comparison. So it may not be any more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I feel like I'm missing something, but I always do.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe this. Did you have a new thought or
No.
Oh, no, okay. That's perfectly fine. Stop me anytime. Let's see. And that was pretty much the end of that section. And then you were with your husband standing outside of a car, and there were people piling into the car. Now, like comically piling in, clown car style, or just several people, and they were getting in.
Yeah, just several people.
But you thought you were locked out, or you were locked out, like you tested the handle, wouldn't open type of thing?
There was, in my mind, there was 7 of us. There were 7 of us standing outside of this large car, kind of like an Escalade or something.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us could get in. I think everyone tried the handle.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
And then a guy across from me leaned down and found this like metal canister behind one of the wheels that had the key. And he's the same guy that once he got inside and we were all inside said, marriage takes a lot of work, huh? And smiled, and everyone started smiling.
Okay, gotcha. What an interesting thing to say. Almost unrelated to anything you just went through to get there. It's like, why that analogy in practice and then those words to describe it afterwards. So a car is, so you're with other people again, so there's social dynamics or social comparison going on, or a defined group of people, which usually says, well, there's some people who are in the group and others who are not because they don't have shared characteristics or behaviors, etc. And you've got a vehicle, which is transportation. It's going to take us from one place to another, typically. Not always, but in this sense, it seemed like, you all wanted to get into the car. You weren't just going to sit there. You're ostensibly going somewhere. But you were locked out of the car. So the means of travel from one place to another, of perhaps transformation, of changing your life from I'm here, now I'm over there, is being denied to you. And then there's, and I think you said it was a gay couple, specifically a married gay couple. Or you would assume because of his comment later. And there, at least one of those men was the one who found the key, and it was in a container or canister of some kind under one of the wheels. And behind the wheels,
Yeah,
like
behind-
it wouldn't be
behind wheels.
run over if it was, well, the car's not going
Yeah.
anywhere without the key. That is very interesting too. The first thing that popped in my head was hide a key. I have a hide a key. And sometimes you pat your pockets. You didn't bring what you need with you, but luckily you planned ahead long ago to the point where what you need was already there, just in case of emergency. In case of emergency, break canister in some ways. But I think it was. I would say, do you have a gay couple in your life that you've drawn parenting examples for? No, you're just completely shaking your
No.
head. Interesting.
No.
So that would be wondered. It's like, why not gay, I suppose. But I mean, you would think it would be closer to your own example. Like, well, okay, I'm married to a man, so I would show a couple like that closer to me. Maybe that's the point, is that it's a different composition of relationship that nonetheless works for its own reason. So maybe there's a comparison going on there as well. Something about looking at it from a different perspective that allowed you to find the key. It's like the secret to the key was going through that example to get to the key so you could get into the car and go where you need to go. I don't know what that means, but it'll probably be highly personal to you. So the person in whom you vested the embodiment of success, successfully entering the vehicle to begin the journey to a new destination, is also the same person into whose mouth you put the concept that marriage takes a lot of work, but it's worth it. I think was the line, and that everyone there agreed. So there was kind of a group consensus thing, but then also someone else in the group added "and joyful." It's worth it and joyful, or
No, joyful was just my interpretation of that guy saying it, but everyone's smiling, kind of like smiling and nodding, like, yeah, marriage. Because it wasn't like, oh, marriage takes a lot of work. It's like, marriage takes a lot of work. And then a smile.
Gotcha. Yeah. But it being worth it. And then, because if it was, and it's not worth it, that's not joyful. And it's worth it is very much joyful. Yes. So especially when it provides whatever key to success is necessary. That gets a horrible way to phrase it, but it's like there's things we can accomplish together in partnership that we just would extremely struggle with on our own if we could do it at all. It's like it's not a guarantee of failure, but it's like you're more likely to fail, and it's easier and sometimes only possible in partnership with someone. And you might have made them gay because you're like, okay, I don't want to confuse this as coming from a feminine perspective at all. There's something about specifically the masculine. It's such a masculine perspective that it's two masculines married to each other, rather than masculine feminine. So there's something to look for in that regard. That maybe a more masculine approach to something. And then there's this question. Well, what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of definitions, but then there's like, what does it mean to you?
No, I think that's really helpful, because one of the things that's been in the back of my mind the last few weeks is how to set healthy boundaries with my daughter. And that's hard for me sometimes because the way boundaries were role modeled in my family was not good. So I totally agree with you. It makes a lot of sense to me that this part of the dream represents a shift from my family or even my mom's extended family into my husband, and in general, like a healthier masculine principle for helping me become a better parent.
Yeah, and if we broke it down a little bit from a neither one is better or worse perspective. The feminine would be more intimate connection, and the masculine would be more healthy separation. Intimate closeness versus healthy separation. And I don't know anything about your daughter or you, or enough about you to give advice on that regard too. But I think just thinking about, setting healthy boundaries too. It's like, what is the ultimate goal of that? I mean, at the end of the day, you want what is best for her, and you want a good relationship with her. So whatever rules or boundaries you're setting, it's to preserve that connection over time, while not driving each other crazy in the moment. So, I mean, just examples are things like, if we both start raising our voices, we take a time out. we just stop for at least 10 minutes. And maybe that's a boundary, and it's nobody's fault. And if you're the one who raises your voice first, say, I need a timeout. I need to put myself in timeout. Then you can model that behavior too. Just random generic ideas where a lot of it, teenagers are very, and you probably know this, we all were, but we forget sometimes, very touchy pride, because we're so powerless in the world when we're young, and then struggling with our parents, and like, they're only human and they're not right about everything, but they're right about most things, but I can't tell them that because I don't want to be wrong right now. All of that. Oh God, believe yes. I was a pretty headstrong little shit. I know all about that. Oh, I had a lot of apologizing to do. You know what the greatest thing was is so a little thing with me and my hi mom, if you're out there. I won't say too much, but she and I are very similar and very different in a lot of ways. But one of those ways we were very similar was, she thought she could have done better, and I think I could have done better. Now, we're both right and we're both wrong, but it was nice hearing it from the other one that, I go, well, I'm sorry I was such a little shit. And she says, you weren't that bad. And she says, I wish I was a better mother. And I was like, you were a great mom. And I'm not even just blowing smoke. I'm like, I've seen other people's parents. They weren't so great maybe, or they didn't try as hard, or they didn't care as much, or they didn't show it in their own ways. And it's just nice to be able to reach an adulthood and look at your relationship with your parents and go, we didn't screw it up too bad. That was okay. That was all right. I can live with it. Not resentful. That's gotcha. You don't want to be resentful for your whole entire life if you can avoid it. Some things is hard to let go of, and some things should not be forgiven. But in that regard, otherwise you just try and get along. I think this is amazing. We got something we got something rolling here. Okay, going down to the next section. Where do you go next then? Where does the car take you in a sense? Like, you went through this transitional, but can we even get to the point of accessing movement in the direction we want to go? You find the key, you get in there. Hey, this is worth it. It's joyful. It takes you to an art studio. The iconic creative space. Now I don't know whether that is, and you can tell me, are you aspirationally looking to be more creative, or are you showing yourself, okay, now I have finally arrived at the location where it's possible to be creative. I am now in the art studio. You weren't outside, you weren't locked out, you weren't lost looking for a place you couldn't find. You arrived, and then what to do with that? Well, maybe some of the interaction in there will do it. I think you said this was a male artist again.
Mm-hmm.
So that would flow from the previous one, that, okay, if you're looking at a more maybe broadly masculine perspective on how to accomplish something specific, or adopt that, seeing if that line of reasoning takes you someplace different than the alternative, perhaps. So, okay, staying in that frame of mind. Well, okay, now we have a male artist. We're being artistic and creative from within the male space, or masculine space. And it's very vibrant art, primary colors, I think you were saying. And that one of the art displays was also functional. It was a kitchen table and chairs.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting too. And it was normal size shape. It wasn't like a giant oversized.
It was a miniature.
It was miniature. Okay.
Yes, it was miniature.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I was going to say, if it was when I thought it was a normal size and shape, it was like, not only is it artistic, it's functional, but this is not functional. This is purely representational. This is, look at it for the type of thing that it is, rather than trying to use it as the thing it is. What does that even mean? I don't know.
It's almost like the artist had created this small scale table and chairs out of, it was like clay and toothpicks and all this stuff in the red, yellow, and blue color scheme. And then that is what he took a picture of to make one of the illustrations for the children's book.
Interesting. So he put a lot of work and thought into it. And he wanted a functional miniature model to draw the most realistic representation of for someone else. So, and that's the word draw suddenly hit me as something that's like, we draw, we create an image with our hands, with tools and whatnot, but we also draw meaning from experiences in that sense, to pull forth, or to, I don't have all the definition, but that word struck me as something that was like, that had multiple meanings in some level. So the idea of collecting that artistry into a book is, it's multiple instances of representations of different concepts. And why, Why a kitchen table and chair? Or chairs? Why not something else? What is it about that stuck out to your... Why is it that you wanted to show yourself in this space? I don't know. I mean, I guess we could look at just what is kitchen table, and the idea of a kitchen table or the kitchen space mean to you. Is that something you have strong associations with, or somewhere you spend a lot of time, somewhere you wish you could spend more time? Your favorite part of the day, coming home to have a meal with family? What do you think?
I love our kitchen, and like it's all kind of an open space. So there's the kitchen and the table we eat at, and then the living room with the TV. And I do spend a lot of time at the kitchen table with my daughter doing crafts. And, you know, I could see us like doing something like this actually if there was a little craft book. So
yeah, sure. Well, not only that is you've got an artist studio, the iconic creative space, but then you've got the sometimes our brain does this too, like macrocosm to microcosm as well. It's like you've got an artist studio, and within it is the kitchen table, which is actually our artist studio at home where I spend time with my daughter. So maybe there's an element to that as well, as like, okay, if I'm going to have a positive relationship with her, I got to lean into the things we share in common and the time we spend together that's fun, because it can't all be serious business. But then those are the best opportunities for bonding and for discussions, lighthearted discussions, sometimes about serious things, where you can be like, well, let's just talk about it. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to give you advice or shake a finger or tell you you did anything wrong. Just how do you feel? What's going on? So that might be part of it too. It's like you're thinking your way through, okay, now how do I apply this process I'm thinking of trying to create, or looking for the, what's my best opportunity to put this into practice? Is what I was thinking, and it'd probably be sitting around the kid. And then this artist creativity, you said the Caldecott Award. What is that specifically?
I think it's just like a, I don't know, exemplary children's book or something. It's a
Sounds familiar,
metal. Yeah, I don't really even know too much about it, but I've seen it. It's like this little silver kind of medallion embossed on certain books.
That's why it seemed familiar, because I knew I'd heard it before. I just didn't know if it was specifically for, like, you know, young adult sci-fi or something. It could have had a specific brand attached, but it might just be for kids, exemplary work, recognition in that style. So let's see. And you, it's what did I write down here? Excited to just be in the presence of an artist and in his studio. So there was an and you're definitely bringing in an enthusiasm to the examination of the subject. You weren't, let's say, counterfactuals. You did not feel awkward. You did not feel out of place. You did not feel like you were trespassing. You were not trying to hide from the artist who surreptitiously view his work. You were fully present and well, I don't think I need to say that six different ways. So there is that going in there. It's probably okay. So part of it, what does that mean? You were giving yourself permission to fully inhabit the space, in a sense of like, okay, I can be here. I can be here as an observer, as a student, as an appreciator, as someone taking it in, but also, as we were saying earlier, you're probably looking for, okay, how do I do this other stuff that's led me up to this point? Now, practical application, what does it look like? And a kind of a reverence for that creative process, in a way, in yourself as well. And you're excited and, excited at the very least, like the potential, I'm going to see something interesting and experience something. So probably the prospect of implementing this discussion maybe with your daughter, or trying to connect with her better and understand each other. You weren't viewing it as a chore. You weren't viewing it as something you dreaded because you felt really incompetent completely. You're actually excited to okay, this is a challenge. I can take this on. How do I do this? How do I make this better? That seems very likely there. Okay. We're actually kind of breezing through these in a little bit. I'm so glad each section was pretty short. That's fantastic. The other gal I talked to, she had about 4 sections, and each one was its own separate page before we started talking about it. And then you don't even want to know. I would do it again. I would do it again. And if this turned into that, I'd be fine with it too. I'm trying to respect your time a little better than that too. Okay, so we were on number 5. I think I didn't even write anything under 4. Okay, now you refocused yourself a little bit more to you're with your husband and another couple, and what I wrote down was Jeff and Steph. I just like alliterations.
Yes.
Well, no, that's rhyming. Alliteration is the beginning. Rhyming is anyway. And you're in a cosmic museum. Okay, that's as much as I got. So it's you and another couple. Now, were you the only ones there, or you're just there with them and other people? It's like a larger tour.
I don't know. I don't know if there was other people there or not. My sense is that there were, but there weren't any other people kind of in our immediate surroundings or like in the room that we were in.
Fair enough. So not a private event, more of a open to the public type of thing. I mean, or you weren't in an empty space with just those 2 other people. Gotcha. And that's fine too. So there's that may or may not mean anything. Just trying to see it a little bit better. What did you mean by cosmic museum in terms of are we looking like
the lighting, like a bunch of like multicolored LEDs and like white walls, and it felt like being in a supernova or something, I don't know, or being in it felt like otherworldly, I guess is maybe a better way to say it.
Okay. And what was it that made it a museum? There were artifacts, displays.
Yeah, it felt like we were looking at. So in the exact scene that we were in with this like white cylinder that's bubbling up with the candy apple and everything, there were no pieces of art. But my sense was that there were like galleries and other spaces with art. But the like vibe of all of it was very, neon green and neon pink and electric, and so it was a museum, but it was not like old school art. It was more like I couldn't even put a genre on it. It felt like art that's not even being made right now or something, or maybe like fractals,
avant-garde, like cutting edge. It wasn't exactly a museum of the past necessarily, but almost a museum of the future.
Yes. Yeah. It was like, and it was also like not just the art itself, it felt like concepts, and it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around because it was just very bright and very colorful, and it felt interactive. I mean, have you ever been to Meow Wolf?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay, it's like an interactive art thing. It wasn't exactly like that, but it just felt a little bit like cosmic, psychedelic, kind of bright lights and energy, and yeah.
I had to try to remember how to spell psychedelic. I'm just writing these things down too. This is it. My notes are a mess. You should look at these. They're just.
It's okay.
And then I add stuff, and then I circle it to say, okay, that's not part of the previous sentence. That was actually a separate concept. I just stuck on that line. And it's in no particular order either, because I just want to get these words so I can look at them and go, okay, what is this word constellation?
Sure.
What are we working with here? I have been to the Exploratorium in San Francisco, which is a little kids' science place. Went there years ago.
Yeah, so kind of like that, but for adults.
Gotcha. Yeah, too. And it's like the next step up. It's like in a way, it's a natural progression. Where does the artist's art go after the studio? It goes to a display. It goes to the public to see it and experience it. And for you, it's very. And again, this was not a series of dreams that was nightmarish, doom and gloom. Even if it had some elements of an unpleasant past, they were worked in for a reason. They were not dwelt upon. They didn't ruin everything. It's just, okay, that was there, that happened, that's a part of it, and moving along. So yeah, you get to this part where, okay, now the result of a creative process is something in your mind is you're and it's funny that you don't, it's not funny, it's understandable. It seems perfectly right that there was no single display you could go, and in the left-hand corner, 3 feet from the floor, was exactly this vase on a pedestal, whatever. It's more this just the concept of trying to imagine something you haven't thought of yet. Now, how would you describe a concept you haven't invented even in your own mind yet? Well, what gets us there? It's opening our mind to this. It might be, bright colors, a psychedelic neon. It's something. It's otherworldly. And when you said otherworldly too, that my brain popped on that as well. The idea of there's a world before you understand a concept, and then there's the world you live in after that concept has become coherent and you can put it into practice. So imagining a place that you're going to but haven't gotten yet, and you don't know what's going to be there, it is literally otherworldly. That's the other world you haven't arrived at yet. Haven't splashed down on Mars, that kind of thing. Then we'll find out where the little green men went to. I think they're living underground. No, I think they're all dead. My favorite theory, they came here. Mars became uninhabitable, and they came here and assisted the evolution of monkeys. And those were the Nephilim from the sky. They were the sons of the gods that came down to Earth. And I heard that theory the other day. I'm like, I like that one. I got some theories about Atlantis, too. It's like...
totally, and Lemuria and Egypt. And yeah.
Oh, so much good stuff. Okay, but then, so you put yourself in an environment representative of the results of an artistic process that has not yet become finalized or instantiated, so to speak, not given form. And what you find there is it's very interesting. You have a paper cup. Now, why a paper cup? And it could mean nothing. Some people would say everything means something, but we may never figure it out too. Paper cups are temporary. Tentative. You didn't pull out, you didn't get a thin crystal goblet from the table and carry it over there. You didn't pull out a thermos and dispense your own stuff. There's something for you to drink up at this place. And again, you've given it a pleasant taste. What am I trying to say? I assume you like candy, apple, and ice cream. So I'm not right.
I'm not opposed to that.
Right, exactly. A very strange, interesting. Well, I've had some cocktails that are like that too. It's like, what is this? Like, I've had I don't know examples off the top of my head, but things where I'm like, that sounds weird, and I tasted it. I'm like, that was really good. It's like, how do they make a birthday cake shot? Chocolate cake out of things that are like there's no chocolate in this. It's very weird.
It's cool
type of it. They even with the chocolate cake shots, they get it feels like the aftertaste of having eaten a spongy cake. Weird that they can accomplish that. It's genius stuff. So you're there, and okay, so again you've got you and your husband, and you've got Jeff and Steph, and they're a couple, and they have kids also, parents, or married parents, or
they both have kids but separately.
Okay.
But I do really respect, I don't know that much about her and her kids, but I think he's an amazing father. So that would make sense, right? Like if I'm changing the tradition of learning from my parents, learn from these men, and then a male artist, and now this guy who I really like how he's raised his 2 daughters.
Nice. That there's a reason he was there with you. That's what I was getting around to as well. So what do these folks represent? And you've got definitely, speaking, we were talking about like shadow side earlier, is like whatever we don't bring to light is going to affect us unconsciously. Better to have it affect us consciously, and that we can understand it and make better choices. So a lot of this does definitely seem to be a dream about how do I personally develop a better relationship with the masculine? Like, what does it look like for a father to be a good father, as opposed to what I experienced? So it's going to be a very different thing. And so you're going to be looking for examples in your life. So you brought your husband with you because that's necessary. You need him to be the good father. So he's got to come with you on this journey. And you brought another person you respect with you, which is, okay, here's another exemplar I can use. I want him in taken into consideration in this creative process I'm trying to do. And then there's
I just want to mention that this
Please.
guy Jeff, he's also an artist, and he's really good friends with Jason. So he is already, like, Jason is kind of learning also from him about how to be a good father. And yeah.
Very nice. I think that's one of the most important things we can have in our life in general is those role models at any age. I mean, I'm pushing 50, and I still looked up to my parents, and I look to older wizards who've accomplished much more than I to let me know whether I'm doing it right or not. I can only hope that I live up to that example. And then you've got this thing. So, paper cup. Maybe okay. The thought that occurred to me with paper cup is you might rightly or wrongly feel like the tools you're bringing are a little bit inadequate. Hey, it'll get the job done, but it's just a paper cup. It's not very sturdy. It's not meant for multiple uses. I'm new at this. And maybe you didn't bring something of higher value because you don't think you have that yet to bring to the table, but also you experiment at low cost initially to keep yourself from being overinvested or making a huge mistake that's very costly. So paper cup could be, go easy on this, start slow, bring just enough of a tool to get the job done, and then go from there. I think you get the idea. I belabor the point sometimes.
It's great. That's super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, why the paper cup? That's what came to my mind. And then you've got this liquid, and so there's a kind of a cylindrical pedestal almost in the floor.
Yeah.
Is that what I was seeing? Or
No, actually, like, it was almost like it was part of the installation. It's like there's something sticking out of the wall that's holding this cylinder, and in the cylinder is this potion.
Okay, fair enough. And that may not be the what am I saying? The physical manifestation of the thing may not be the point of it at all. There's probably a reason you put it in that form, but it may not be. I think what's critical more than anything is it's got a. I think what you would describe or what you would reflecting on it would say is kind of an appealing or attractive quality to it. It's like, it catches it's attention grabbing. So it's like, hey, look at me. And then not only is it attention grabbing, but it's actually delicious as well. It's got something in there that it's like, it's not like it looks good and you taste it and it was sewer water and you're like, ooh, why did I do that? And you spit it out. No, this was something that it attracted your attention and it was delicious. So you're giving yourself there's like a rewarding experience out of attending to this detail. And you've got your husband saying, I don't think there's any left, but before you even looked, you're like, no, there's definitely something in there. And you went over and filled your cup and it was delicious. So you've got maybe what am I saying? I start so many. I would love to see how Google transcripts these things. I start so many sentences I never finish. Where does it put a period? I wonder. AI is gonna have to work on that. Does he have a little more skeptical, hesitant attitude towards things sometimes? Is he more likely the one to say Murphy's Law, it's probably not going to work out type of thing?
Yeah, I would say I'm more of an optimist. I wouldn't say he's a pessimist,
Sure.
but maybe he's a realist, or a little more like wah wah.
A little more pragmatic about some things sometimes.
Yeah.
That was you could see by the questions I asked that I'm like, that's kind of the impression I got from, okay, what am I seeing here? He's the one who's probably going to tell you it's probably empty, before you even look, and you're a little more the optimist. And what you're showing yourself was that it was right to trust your optimism, because not only was it there, it was a rewarding experience to get that as well. That may be part of it too. Like, why show yourself that in the broader context of having a healthier relationship with masculine and needing him to embody that? What are the two possibilities? You're looking at that as that's his role, but I can just let him be the way he is and pursue my optimism regardless. It also might be an opportunity to reflect on whether he should lean a little more towards you, not surrendering his skepticism, but being maybe a little more vocally optimistic, even if he isn't so sure. having a little, you don't want him to be fake. That isn't it. That isn't it. It's more like, if he doesn't have to say something pessimistic, then just don't. Something along those lines. Like, if is there a purpose to warning? It's like, hey, don't take that risk. That's a fantastic, useful pessimism. I think that's dangerous. Don't do that. The other side of it is, did you really need to say that? Let's just go look. Maybe you're recognizing some of his, maybe he could change a little bit too. Maybe you want him to, maybe you don't. I'm just looking at,
Well, the other thing that I was thinking of when I woke up from the dream is that maybe when he looked in it, it was empty, but when I looked in it, it was full.
Oh,
Because
there is that. Yeah.
I filled up my cup and no one else took any.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I didn't think of that at all. I didn't even think to ask that. That's fantastic. Yeah. And that may be just a clear, a lot of times what we're doing in dreams, we ask ourselves questions or we review facts, and it's one of, we owe Freud a lot of credit, and he was right about a ton of stuff and he was wrong about a lot of things. And one of them was dreams always being a secret wish. Sometimes they're just an objective analysis. What is this thing? What does it look like? What does it look like to me right now? And we can't even say for sure that what it looks like to us now is really what it is, but at least we can be honest and say, that's what I think it is. That's what it looks like to me. And sometimes it does involve a wish. We're hoping to have good things come to us and keep bad things away. Of course, we're human. That's so many dreams involve wishes, but a lot of them are just objective review analysis of facts to gut check with ourselves. How do I feel about this? So that could have been it as well. So naturally, the pessimist wouldn't even look, and the optimist would at least check. I have enough hope that it will be a rewarding experience, that it's worth checking. Might be, and then, I don't want to leave you with the impression that you think he should change anything. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's for you to decide. But I wanted to throw that in there as one of many possibilities that, maybe maybe that's the perfect counterbalance. I am definitely the same way. I'm a little more of the, that's weird too. We're, my wife and I'm a little more of the skeptical, pragmatic type of person. But then again, so we've got these different, it's just a complete tangent, but I like to stay home, and she likes to get out and walk around once in a while and go see people. Not my thing. I don't want to go with her, and she doesn't want me to go anywhere I don't want to be, and she isn't, like, oh God, we never go anywhere. And she's like, I'm going. I'm like, well, just don't go out after dark. That's all I ask. Just please go during the daylight hours. See anyone you want. And she's like, I'll be fine. I'm like, you're going to get hurt, and I'm going to feel sad, and I can't stop you. But I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to be right about that kind of prediction. But so she's a little more optimistic. And so far she's been right. So let's hope that keeps up. She hasn't been hurt yet by anyone in the dark of night roaming around the streets of Portland. Jesus. I think that brings us to the end of that sequence. Yeah. Wow, we got a lot of stuff out of that. That was
great.
Oh,
yeah, that was
thank helpful. You very much. Do you have any additional questions? Anything we glossed over? You're like, what about this? Or anything I was a little too vague on? You're like, well, what did you mean by that?
I was curious what to you is the symbolism of apple.
Oh, yeah. Why particularly apple? And it was like apple and cotton candy?
No, it was kind of like, it was like sour, like green apple and ice cream. So like kind of light green, white. Mm-hmm. What comes to mind with that? The first thing that came to my mind, and this is probably my own association, but was carnival, like candy apple in a way, but it's sour green apple and ice cream. You don't have any connections with those two objects? Nothing comes to mind? No, I mean, in my dream of my dream, like in the morning waking up, I felt like those two colors, the light green and the white, were almost like money. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of.
Sure. And money could just represent profit, and you can profit in a lot of different ways from an experience.
Yes.
Better understanding, better relationships, etc. Mm-hmm. Some of that.
Almost like there's a reward, not that it has to be financial, but there's a reward for this. As the arc that you showed me, it's like there's a reward for creating these new patterns and finding new perspective and being in a more masculine space in my relationship with my daughter and being creative about it. And yeah, that just sounds really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably one of those elements where it's enough of a mystery that'll keep you thinking about it for a little while longer. And I bet if you meditate on, green apples, and then white ice cream, like a vanilla. The first one of the first things also it made me think of was the idea of those cream sodas. But those are usually like orange cream. Or do they have like a sour apple cream soda?
I haven't, but maybe they should.
Yeah. That sounds like it might.
Anyway, that was my only question.
Fair enough. No, I wish I had a better answer for that one. That's a great mysterious component. Some of these things I lied over just a little bit. Like, I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure it's really important. It's like, what are the broad strokes? And I think after I've been doing this for a few years, like I used to really hone in on a lot of the specifics and try and see it as clearly as I could, like I was looking through your eyes. And I've kind of stepped back from that a little bit and left it a little more loose. And it seems we get to a better story arc more quickly than this.
Yeah.
So probably what would have taken me 3 hours last time, we got it done an hour and a half this time.
Totally. No, I really appreciate it. It was super helpful.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad it was useful. That's always what I'm trying to do, and hopefully enjoyable and entertaining for all involved, the folks out there listening to. Hopefully you forgot we were being listened to as well.
Yes, I did. I actually forgot.
Right? This could just be any other internet chat with some random crazy person. And I say that a lot too, with love, because there's crazy people are not the mentally ill. Those are two different things. That's in my estimation. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. All right. Well, if you feel satisfied we've got everything we can for the moment. Now I will do the wrapping it up, and we'll get you out of here. Got to put on.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Got to put on the radio announcer voice, sort of. I try not to do that. So, okay, once again, this has been our friend Violet Lang out of Boulder, Colorado. She is an engineer, an MBA, and now happily married mother of two who met her husband in a dream. We talked about that. It's a fantastic story. But only after surviving complex trauma and rewiring her attachment style by integrating head, heart, and body and using spiritual techniques to date differently. And now she teaches other women to do the same. You can find her at violetlang.com. For my part, would you kindly like, share, and subscribe? Tell your friends to reach out and watch the show and share their dreams with me. I'd love to hear from you. I do video game streams most days, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. You can find, the book. I got the book up here. It's this book, whatever this book is. I can't remember. I've got like 17 of them, and I forget. I just forgot to do it before. I've been so out of practice. I haven't had a dream interview in like 2 or 3 weeks, so that's okay. You can get that, whatever that book is, at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com. Just click on the books tab, scroll down, all kinds of neat stuff there if you just want to go check it out and browse around. Interviews I've done with other people. There's an encyclopedia, footnotes I'm trying to put together from the books, all those kind of things. Last but not least, head on over to BenjaminTheDreamWizard.locals.com. Building a community there, free to join, attached to my Rumble account. That is enough out of me. Violet, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I love these. I always, I put myself out there and the risk of failure. Just the idea of I might have absolutely nothing to give, and like a miracle, I got something. It blows me away every time. So, okay, last thing to say is everybody out there, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next time.